Greg is with the master of the hounds, Donald Terras. Greg?
Thanks, Shelley, and welcome, Don. Thanks for joining us this evening. Now, Shelley just described you as master of the hounds. I think we need to explain what that means. You're not into dog sitting and things like that. Explain to us what that means, the title of master of the hounds.
Well, the Master of the Hounds is derived from the Arthur Conan Doyle account of Sherlock Holmes and the Hound of the Baskervilles. The Master of the Hounds oversees the Hounds of the Baskerville, which is a science society or subgroup of the Baker Street Irregulars, the first such Sherlockian group in the United States.
Okay, and the Hounds of the Baskerville is a Chicago group formed in 1943, I understand. Tell us a little bit about how that got going.
It was established by Vincent Sterrett, who was a prominent writer, poet, war correspondent, columnist for the Chicago Tribune. He and Charles Collins, one of his colleagues at the Tribune, got together and really were the two people that were instrumental in starting the group back in 1943.
Yeah. Now, this group is not something where I couldn't just walk up and say, here, here's my dues, I'm going to join your club. You got to be invited into this thing.
Well, there are no dues.
There's no dues, but you still have to be invited.
You still have to be invited, yeah. It's by invitation only.
Yeah, and so I understand you get together like once a year here in Chicago, and what do you do at this once a year meeting?
Well, we celebrate the writings of Arthur Conan Doyle, Sherlock Holmes specifically, but we branch out a little bit. Usually there's a program or two, have a good dinner, and have a a good time.
All right, and all of you are obviously devotees of Sherlock Holmes. You call yourselves Sherlockians. How would you define a Sherlockian?
Someone with a great passion for the Sherlock Holmes canon, which is comprised of his 56 short stories and 4 novels.
Okay, so you guys know his stories inside and out. You could probably quote certain passages from some of the books.
Actually, I think there are very few people that know them inside and out. We all seem to have our favorites that we know better than the others, but they're all good.
Yeah, yeah. Now, in addition to being a Sherlockian, your real job, if you will, is you are the master of the lighthouse, in a sense. There's a beautiful lighthouse up there in Evanston called the Grosse Pointe Lighthouse. Tell us what you do with that.
Actually, I'm director of the Lighthouse Park District of Evanston, and we manage the Grosse Pointe Lighthouse. It's a National Historic Landmark, a very small museum on the lakefront in Evanston.
Yeah.
And I manage the affairs of the district and the lighthouse, which is still federally owned. So it's a stewardship kind of position.
You've written a couple of books. In fact, this one is the Grosse Pointe Lighthouse. It's about the lighthouse in Evanston and lighthouses of Chicago Harbor. Lighthouses of Chicago Harbor. I know of one lighthouse in the Chicago Harbor, the one that we see all the time out there in Monroe Harbor, basically. Are there more than just this one?
Historically, there were 2 that preceded this one that was constructed during the Columbian Exposition in 1893. The first one was constructed in 1832, and the middle one, the second lighthouse, was constructed in 1857.
Okay, all right. And that one is no longer there? The middle one? Are you talking about?
They were both located on shore.
Okay.
And presented navigational problems getting into the harbor, so they built the third one out into the lake.
They moved it out. Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. All right. So we talked about your interest in Sherlock Holmes, and Sherlock wasn't doing this alone. He had a sidekick, Dr. Watson. Tell us a little bit about the importance of having a sidekick, or why did Doyle want a sidekick in there for Sherlock?
Well, Doyle makes no bones about it that he was heavily influenced by the Edgar Allan Poe mystery stories, Murders in the Rue Morgue, the Purloined Letter.
Yeah.
And I don't think he threw in Dr. Watson as an assistive device in his writings simply to do it. I think there is a definite reason why, and there has to be a counterpart to the kind of mechanized worldview that Holmes has, and I think Watson epitomizes that. He's much more of a humanist than the cold, calculating, mechanical machine that Sherlock Holmes is sometimes portrayed as.
And he certainly also brings some levity to the situation as well. Some
Yes.
real humanness to it, as you say. You've been a real fan of Sherlock Holmes. Tell us a little bit about where that interest began in Sherlock Holmes and mysteries in general.
I've thought about this some, and it goes back to 4th grade. I read the Blue Carbuncle, The Adventure of the Blue Carbuncle. It's a holiday adventure with Sherlock Holmes and Watson chasing down the whereabouts of a famous stone, a jewel called the Blue Carbuncle. It's a fanciful tale and very much in the holiday spirit. No violence or anything like that, and it reads very well. And it was a great introduction for me to what we call the method of Sherlock Holmes, and that is the way that he's able to obtain so much information through observation of not only people but of artifacts as well.
And from there, you were hooked.
That's correct.